Hello, all you skibbies. This is Great Answer, and this is a video recording of the podcast, the ROPECRAFT. And you can tell I'm out of practice because I've had pneumonia. The wonderful, gorgeous person on the other side of the screen, if you can't see it because you're listening to this podcast, just imagine a wonderful, gorgeous person. And that is Eternal Angel. And hi, Eternal Angel.
Hey, guys.
Coming to us all the way from the future. It is actually the next day because pronouns you prefer me to use?
She, her is fine.
Okay. The things that the place that she lives is in Australia, but she took time out of her busy schedule to come on the ROPECRAFT, and I feel bad because I've known you for I don't know how many years now. You and I and Iron Temple Dog and Lonnie Angel put together the first version of Consent Rocks. You and I have worked together at events and talked together and played together and had lots of fun. And I thought, and somewhere in those years, I mean, my friends can tell you, if you're hanging around Gray, at some point he'll be like, hey, here, talk on my podcast. And I thought you had already, but it turns out you didn't. So I apologize for not having you on the podcast.
That's okay. I'll just, the most memorable thing is the toe torture that you did to me where I almost fell off the bed. So I'll repay that when I come and see you.
Oh, yes, that was fun. Yes. Well, toe torture. I'm very fond of minimal effort, maximum effect, So if I can torture you with just your toes, that makes it a lot easier on my aging body. I do have to pay some bills, though, real quick, and say that this podcast is sponsored by two great individuals. One is Twisted Monk. Have you used Twisted Monk rope?
I have Twisted Monk rope. I have some of his hemp.
How do you like it?
I love it. It's great.
Oh, thank God. It would be very embarrassing if you had said you didn't like it. What color do you have?
It's red.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The things I like about his colors, aside from the fact that they're deep and they're rich, is that they don't bleed. Some really good rope makers make good rope, and the first few times you use it, you end up with little stripes or things like that on the skin or on your hands from the rope, and his stuff doesn't do that.
I think the reasoning about why you're a multicolored human being suddenly makes life more interesting.
Right. And actually, he just recently posted about they have a bamboo woven rope, rainbow rope, that is all the colors, and they all pop, and they're all dyed individually. And Naya's over in the kitchen now drooling because she wants some now. So anyway, he also sponsors the podcast, and we appreciate that. And the other person who sponsors it is Lee Allure, who is a hypnotist, an erotic hypnotist and regular hypnotist. You've seen me once or twice, go to Grooves and have a really good memory of names before. Mm-hmm. That's entirely her fault. I talked to her about the fact that I was having trouble remembering names. And it was embarrassing because it's like as a presenter, you go up and you're like, somebody comes and says, "Oh my God, you're here! I'm so glad to see you!" And you're like, "Yeah, it's great to see you again too." And you just have no memory of what actually happened. So she actually did some hypnosis on me, and I became really good for a while. I need to have kind of a refresher now. It's been a few years. Really good for a while at remembering names, and then kind of good. And plus, she does really hot erotic recordings and things like that. And believe it or not, she also makes soap. Because everybody needs a hobby, and she just decided one day she's going to make soap, and you're going to actually get some of it because you'll be coming to ROPECRAFT and presenting. Okay. And one of the presenter gifts is Spiral Eye Soap. So spiraleyesoap.com is her website there, or leeallure.com, and she also is a very strong supporter of the ROPECRAFT, and I appreciate it a lot. So that's all the bills I got to pay. I have to mention my sponsors, and I don't even have to advertise the Pittsburgh Groove because it's sold out. We are sold out for the Pittsburgh Groove, so I'm happy about that. And you're coming to ROPECRAFT. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, who are you? What do you do? Justify your existence.
I like to hurt people. So I'm an Australian. I live where all the dangerous things are, and I've still managed to survive all these years. Basically, I work as a professional dominatrix and in the sex industry as a sex worker, and I love presenting and education and informing people. I'm really passionate about sharing knowledge and learning from others, and being able to get more information out to people who engage in the BDSM community, because what we do is amazing and we can build relationships and dynamics and better communication skills and things, but without that knowledge behind it, it doesn't sort of mean a lot. So I really love teaching and getting into people's brains and teaching psychological based subjects, and
nerd. I say that affectionately. As you know, we have geeked out about this for a while. It's kind of funny. A lot of times people think that presenters, when they get together, they must have these wild and crazy scenes and sex and things like that. And that can happen sometimes, but more often than not, you're sitting around having these really passionate conversations about the neurochemical reactions that go on when you're being flogged or whatever.
Absolutely.
How did you come to BDSM? I mean, what?
I was kind of introduced to it as I sort of became sexually active, but sort of developed my own interest in it. So I came into it being told that I would be submissive and slave-like and things, and that only sat well with me for about 30% of the time. And so my rather type A personality doesn't kind of bode well about being shoved in a box that I don't want to be put in just yet. And so I, have developed that from there. So, I've done all the slave training and things like that, but mostly exist in a relatively dominant sense, and identify now as a switch, and basically have just soaked up every bit of information I can along the way and incorporate it into my play styles. And, it's become a lifestyle for me. It's part of how I enjoy my life every day. It's not just a pick up, put down thing for me.
Gotcha. Do you think that the experience as a top, the experience as a slave or in the slave training and the bottom side of things, do you think that helps you be a better top when you're in that role, or does it just automatically they stay in their wheelhouses?
No, I think it absolutely allows me to understand on a really thorough level of how what I might do to someone might impact them. So, when I'm playing with someone who's a bottom or a submissive or a slave, I have a really good understanding of where their headset, could potentially be, and allows me to kind of dig a little further. And I also know what things to kind of avoid as well. Like, ignoring someone is generally pretty bad practice because I've been on the receiving end of that. Great punishment in some ways, but horrible in others.
Isolation, it sucks.
Yeah, and it makes things like fear play really fun because I totally understand how it ticks over in both sides.
Right. Aside from rope, do you have particular areas that you like to you would call it, like something like, oh, I'm a whip guy, or oh, I'm a needles lady, or whatever? Do you have anything in particular that you identify as in terms of that?
Psychological mindfuckery and heavy edge play.
Yeah, okay, so there's a word, edge play. So I was talking with a friend who on Tinder had a person said they were kinky. Maybe it was Tinder, I don't know, one of those dating apps, and he said, but I'm not into any of that weird stuff like fire or like electricity, needles, or fire. And I looked at it, and I looked at each other like, that's the weird stuff? I mean, that doesn't feel like weird. So when you say edge play, that can mean different things, especially since you're talking about Australian edge play, not North American edge play. So for all we know, that means, gargling spiders or something. So what does edge play look like to you?
Well, one of the best memories I had was at Fusion, the first one I went to, and it got to like Sunday, and I was drowning quick, and I heard in the background, so we don't fuck with the Australian because she's really dangerous. But for me, it's for me, it's waterboarding and rough body play and breath play and knives and psychological like fear play, like really breaking someone down and then building them back up. I'm a huge advocate of breaking someone down, but also putting them back together when I'm, once we get to that point. Heavy degradation and humiliation and just all the things that probably require a lot of aftercare.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. And I'm guessing you don't fall into the category of top says, I don't need aftercare.
No, I've been pretty lucky where I don't tend to drop a lot. I've noticed I do get con drop after doing back-to-back cons.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as top drop goes, I think I get a lot of my aftercare from checking in on people and making sure they're okay and that, they have come out the other side of it feeling stronger. That to me is the ultimate, that I leave someone in a better place once we've kind of done the really heavy stuff. That is always such a wonderful compliment and, feel good feeling. So I've been pretty lucky to avoid those kind of things. And when I do feel a bit, droppy and things like that, I certainly look after myself and, reach out to people if I need to.
So, how do you negotiate aftercare when you're starting a scene with especially something big like that? Like, what questions do you ask? Because if people don't know what you're going to be doing to them, if you're heading for a real deep mindfuck kind of thing, you probably want to have a better idea of what deeper aftercare, what kind of things they need, other than them saying, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Just give me a hug and a blanket, and I'm fine," or something like that. How do you draw that out with a bottom that you're about to do a scene with like that? How do you really get a good idea of what they need?
So, good question. I tend to have a really good extensive talk with them and sometimes even people around them that they're close to, just to get a better gauge of who they are. And I certainly find out like if there's any previous mental health stuff that's been going on for them, if there's any potential things that they might look that they're wanting to explore. I've had people who have wanted to explore their own personal trauma again in a safer environment. And so that generally means that the aftercare on the other side, to be fair, when I'm traveling and I come overseas and stuff, I generally ask them to have some support people sort of on standby ready to give them that aftercare. Because people that they're closer to, they'll receive that aftercare so much better. And you quite often don't want your aftercare to come from the person who's just, half stabbed you, murdered you, that kind of stuff. So people kind of receive aftercare better from people that they're close to, whether that's loved ones, close friends, that kind of thing. And that's not passing the buck in any way. I tend to leave a period of time that's agreeable to both of us before we debrief. So to me, that's different to aftercare. In that immediate hype of everything's happened and all of that adrenaline and, dopamine and endorphins, that they're not in a great state to actually debrief with me. So I tend to wait anywhere between 24 hours to a week, just depending on the person, and actually come back and debrief about what they enjoyed and didn't enjoy and what worked and what didn't work. And, was there anything I could have done better or something that, may have happened to them that was fantastic that they'd love to do again. And I find that takes a lot of the aftercare in a heavy scene like that sort of comes a lot through that debrief too.
Since you travel a lot, I imagine a lot of that debrief and aftercare has to happen in a virtual realm. Is that harder, or is it easier because you don't have the pressures and endorphins and things like that going on?
I tend to find it comes easier, mostly because I've recently put together a playing with me guide, and part of that is, if I'm looking to play with someone, these are kind of the things I like to do. Because I work as a professional dominatrix, when I play in my personal life, I'm doing things that I really want to do. And so when I say to someone like, that's not something that particularly interests me, it's never nothing bad on their behalf. I just, my personal life, I really want to be enjoying what I'm doing. And part of the agreement to kind of playing with me is to doing a written debrief, because I think when we write things down, it doesn't have to be big, fancy, erotic novel or anything. It can be dot point. Yeah, it takes a lot of the hype out of it, I suppose, and you can really sit down and think about it. Whereas when you talk to someone, I feel that there's a lot of pressure to come up with an instant answer. Whereas when you write something, you can take the time to write it, read it, consider it, put things across better. And I feel like people have a safer space in doing so because they might be able to write something that they wouldn't be willing to say to you verbally. So with me traveling and then being able to debrief in a written sense to me, I actually quite enjoy because I feel like I get almost a more honest answer than if I was face-to-face with them.
Nice. That's I don't do a lot of humiliation degradation, but there was a time that I did a very complex one, and it worked really, really well at the time. It was a series of statements that I made for someone, and they had to choose to internalize that statement and then move on. And they were not statements that I meant, actually, they were meant to degrade or to humiliate them as they came along. And it had all been pre-negotiated. We knew where we were going to be, not what areas we weren't going to, and all that stuff went well. The scene itself went well. We were fine afterwards. And it was about, I can't remember if it was 2 weeks or 6 weeks. It was a long time afterwards when you thought everything was going fine. And the message I got from her was, that number 7, I think you really meant that. And I felt totally blindsided by that statement, but it just took more aftercare to go through that. It's interesting how playing that way can leave those scars and bruises that are harder to heal, because they just don't go away.
Absolutely. It's certainly a harder one to do because if you beat someone with a flogger, you can literally see what's happening physically. When we start delving into the psychological side of things, there's potential landmines that you might accidentally step on, and you can try to minimize that risk as much as possible through, collaboration and navigating through the potentials for a scene. But at the end of the day, if we accidentally step on them, then we've got to deal with those, both, top and bottom. And that responsibility of working through that. And, a lot of us don't necessarily have the understanding behind the reasoning about why these things crop up, and understanding why the brain's gone where it's gone. And so that's why I use the debriefing as a really powerful tool to help people be able to, contemplate those things, because maybe if she had been able to write about it, she might have been able to say it to you sooner, because it's so much more confrontational to have a discussion face to face. And, just taking that sting out of it is really nice sometimes for people. It just gives them a better feeling about it.
Right. You mentioned you work as a professional dominatrix also. How does that intersect with your kink, social kink identity?
It's been really interesting. I've certainly developed a facet of myself that really enjoys what I do as a professional dominatrix, and I wanted to do it because I enjoy BDSM so much. But without a doubt, there are parts of it that are certainly a job. I've worked in a house, and now I work independently for myself. So when you work in a house, it's sort of, if you're capable of doing the content, whether you want to or not, you sort of need to do it. So it becomes a lot more like service topping. Right. And pulled me away from the community for probably about a year, whilst I adjusted to doing work on demand like that. Whereas now, working independently, I have the advantage of being able to pick and choose my clients and have a chat to them and work through that kind of thing. And that's really brilliant as well. So if there's something doesn't line up with the things that I tend to specialize in, then I refer them on to another professional within the industry that would be better suited to them. Because at the end of the day, I feel like professional dominatrixes are more about their skill sets, not just their look, as opposed to when you look at straight sex work, where it's much more of an aesthetic rather than a skill set.
Now, careful. There may be some sex workers out there that would be like, wait a minute, there's skill sets too. I know that some of the dominatrixes that I know, the pro doms, have, at least out here, have experienced some stigma and sort of bad-mouthing from the local communities, as if somehow doing this for money and being, like you say, having that kind of skill set is somehow inauthentic. Does any of that happen down there, or?
It does. I think that I found no matter where I go, professional dominatrices tend to stay out of the community a little bit more because of that stigma. And there seems to be a desire to kind of keep trade secrets too. I have never allowed it to become a barrier for me because I came from the BDSM community into working as a professional dominatrix, whereas there are a lot of dominatrices that I have come across who have come from it from a different angle, so they've had to learn from the ground up, where I came with a substantial skill set before I started working professionally. So maybe coming at it from a different angle has made it a bit easier, and I also don't care about stigmas, so I just
No,
I'm like,
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I agree. So switching gears, let's talk about your North American tour that you're going to be doing. You're coming out to, is Fusion your first event out here?
No, ROPECRAFT Chicago is my first event.
Oh, that's right. I'm looking at the calendar now. The ROPECRAFT show is first. That's right. So yes, ROPECRAFT Chicago. What's that about? Oh wait, that's my event. Never mind. Yes, ROPECRAFT Chicago, and we're really excited to have you. You didn't teach at the other ROPECRAFT that you were at. You did the Consent Rocks team.
Yes.
Back then it was called Rashomon. Cool. So this time you're coming to teach, and hey, presenter liaison, what classes are we having her teach?
We are having her teach.
I'm listening to the voice.
Hold on 1 second.
Actually, I have a notebook right in front of me. I can tell me. There it is. Do you know what classes we're going to ask you to teach?
No.
Oh, goody. This is going to be a live on the Ropecast. A presenter finds out what classes we're hoping to have her teach for ROPECRAFT. So we would like you to teach tying with emotional intention. We'd like you to teach speed dating with rope. And we'd like you to teach your class on consent and navigation. And that's because I am a consent nerd. And I know you are too, but I was looking at it. And consent navigation, obviously that caught my eye at first because I thought it might be a typo. Consent, you meant to say consent and negotiation, didn't you?
I did not.
That's called a leading question. Tell us about that class.
So I had a revelation in the shower, actually, about teaching my non-consent class and restructuring it. And I then had a light bulb moment about consent and negotiation and the way we think about the word negotiation, that it's a bargaining thing. We're sitting down at a business table to negotiate something out. And I really don't like it. So
I agree. There's no context where negotiating is a positive experience. I mean, even if you're talking about negotiating a path or something, you're having to overcome obstacles and things like that. I mean, it's just, the negotiating is such a horrible metaphor. I don't know why we chose it. So why is navigation better?
Absolutely. It's, we don't negotiate. Oh, I don't want to do anal fisting, but you can put 3 fingers in. Sorry. Nope. So
but you might.
I thought about navigation as a really good way to explore and bring it back to a relatable experience about all of us learning how to drive. So you guys drive on the wrong side of the road, but that's okay. I'll forgive that.
We invented the car, I will point out.
I won't drive in the States because I'm scared.
That's scary. That's another reason, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought about it, and I wanted to bring it back down to collaborating and navigating. So we're looking at it from getting together an itinerary, and we, both parties look at it and they go, well, I really want to go to Paris. And the other person goes, well, I want to go to Africa. And they go, well, those 2 things don't kind of meet up. So maybe we'll take this trip separately, or we'll find someone else to take it with. Or maybe we could do Paris and Africa. If we both agree that the things we want to do there are things that we both want to do. And without a doubt, you can compromise some things, but, we don't just jump in a battered up car with someone and go, sure, take me wherever you want to take me, because it doesn't seem like a serial killer thing to happen.
Or if you do, you're prepared, because hitchhiking is a thing, but you have to be prepared that you get what you get,
That's right. That's definitely a high-risk activity.
Yes.
But definitely looking at changing this whole concept around, consent and calling it navigation rather than calling it negotiation, because then, you know, the concept in our heads and the way we approach it is entirely different to, you know, the way we look at it currently.
Including things like making sure our vehicle is well fueled and taken care of. And you know, you're talking about the risk of hitchhiking and the risk of pickup play. I mean, just the metaphor fits so perfectly. So
Exactly.
wow.
Exactly. So
I'm sorry if I stole some of your words.
I feel like, you know, if we say that the top is the driver and, you know, the bottom is the passenger, if they're looking at the car and every panel is dinged on that car, you're going to go, well, maybe this one doesn't know how to drive so well.
Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah. Okay. And now my head is taking it into like, you know, and in a service scene, it's the other way around because you're in like a limousine, you know, and the person is there. And if they don't remember to hold the door for you, then you're like, okay, this person may not be, you know, a trained chauffeur kind of thing. I like that. I like this metaphor. And I like that you used the word collaborating earlier because that's the one that I'm trying to get out there too. Collaborating and navigating your way through consent. Do you, there was a question put out on Twitter today from Kink Academy, and it was talking about what is the twooism that you think about? What are the twooisms that you think are bad? And by twooism, we mean, like, for me, one of the twooism is the idea that consent is simple. I think that's a very damaging viewpoint. And consent is nuanced. Consent is, you know, the idea that we can prejudge things. So that was like my twooism. Do you have any twooisms or things that you think are damaging viewpoints in the kink community that you wish you could just snap your fingers and everybody would know the right way to think?
All of them. I mean, to be fair, I don't think there is any one true way about anything. I think it comes to our abilities to understand what the definition means to us and how to define it for ourselves personally, and not Bible bash someone into believing that this is the only way to do it.
I'm going to rephrase the question because I realize I phrased that wrong. Not that you could snap your fingers and make everybody think one thing, but if you could snap your fingers and take away one idea that too many people think that is damaging, what is the one thing you would like to take away or to eliminate?
That you can't say the word no.
Ooh, good one. Very good.
For everyone.
I was going to say, they can be tops and bottoms because tops sometimes are, you know.
Yeah, I'm in the process of contemplating teaching a class about how to say the word no.
Could be a very short one.
It could be, but we naturally feel uncomfortable about saying no, and we naturally feel uncomfortable, and not just in kink, in anything. We feel uncomfortable saying no, and we feel uncomfortable denying somebody something. So if our friend says, come to the movies with me, and you've had a 60-hour week and your cat died and your grandmother's sick and you just want to have a microwave meal and curl up under a blanket and watch trash TV, and we still feel compelled to say yes because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And I am, if anything, blunt, and I don't think there's anything bad in the world about learning how to be diplomatically blunt.
100% agree. So I guess that the other neat thing about this, and this is where we get to get the big reveal, is that if somebody by some mischance can't make it to ROPECRAFT or wants to have a preview of your class and your teaching style, you and I are making sure that you can do this as a webinar here in a few weeks. And what is, I was sitting here in my head trying to come up with what the date is, and I realized it's easier for me just to ask you because this is for people in your time zone mainly, although other people can certainly register anywhere in the world. But what is the date and time for your webinar on consent and navigation?
So we're doing consent and navigation on the 19th of April, which is a Thursday from 8:00 p.m. And if people want to work out what those time zones are, because I actually have an app to keep track of it for me because I can't keep track of it all. So it'll be Thursday, the 19th of April from 8 p.m.
Okay. And what time zone are you in? What do they call that Australian time zone? You probably have more than one of them.
Sydney, Melbourne time zone for Australia.
Okay, Sydney, Melbourne time zone. Excellent. Okay, and we will definitely put out more information on that. Both you can go to either my newsletter. I'll put out stuff on it, and I'll frankly, if you're listening to this podcast, you'll get another announcement before that time anyway, if you want to sign up for that. So that's pretty awesome. We are heading. I got some statistics, and I found out that people only listen to the first half hour of the podcast.
Well, that seems rather rude.
Vast amount. Doesn't matter how long the podcast is. People are listening to the first half hour, and then the number of people that listen to the whole thing just shrinks a lot. So I'm going to stick to keeping these more short because nobody's listening anyway. After a half hour, before the half hour, we have a big audience. So it's time for your lightning round questions. Are you prepared?
I didn't even know I was doing this today. So.
No. It's easy. It's actually part of it's because I get the feeling like sometimes we put our idols on a pedestal. We put presenters on a pedestal. I remember a long time ago when I first started teaching rope in Madison. I had taught a few lessons in the sort of the fetish night kind of thing. And at one point I was walking down the street, and apparently a friend of mine saw me, or was there with her boyfriend, and they saw me out the window, and she said, "Oh, that's a great answer. Why is he going out in the day?" So I think it's important that we humanize and talk about things. So I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of mostly non-kink related questions. First one, what's your beverage of choice? I mean, I see you're drinking ginger beer there.
I'm drinking Stone's ginger beer currently, but tea, generally. Peppermint tea. I've got a really good one, which is blueberry pomegranate green tea.
Ooh, that does sound good. I'm drinking tea now. I don't know what kind I'm drinking. Chai, is that right?
Sweet and spicy.
Sweet and spicy chai is what I'm drinking right now. So good for tea. What is your I won't say favorite food, but if I was going to say, hey, let me grab you something to eat, what would you want?
Anything that's not seafood or hot. Italian, pasta.
Okay. I'm a lasagna person myself. A good book you'd recommend somebody read?
That's a really good question. Rupi Kaur's 2 books that she's got out. So I can't remember the titles exactly, but they're sitting in my bookcase in my room. But they're like quotes-based books. And I really enjoyed them.
How do you spell last name?
Kaur.
Rupi Kaur. Okay, cool. And a good movie you'd recommend?
Black Panther.
Oh yeah, I mean I almost this is the first time I've asked that question since the movie came out. I may have to disqualify that as an answer, or say, okay, we know Black Panther, but if Black Panther is sold out, what movie would you recommend? But I'll take that. But I will say, what is your favorite part of Black Panther? Not anatomically, I mean in the movie.
I really love the sass the younger sister gives all the time, actually. That's
Very.
All of her lines are just brilliant.
Sorry, mother. Yes.
Yep. See this technology? I made it better.
Yeah. And I've been an Angela Bassett fan forever. And seeing her as the Queen of Wakanda was like the fulfillment of a lifetime of fandom, just the way it should work. So anyway, this is not the Black Panther podcast yet. I don't think I would do that podcast. So I would love to be a guest on it though. Now we get into the kinky stuff. What is something in your toy bag that people would be surprised to find out is in there?
I have fluffy floggers in there.
What? Naya, we need a different presenter.
I do have some fluffy bits and pieces in there, but I have a pair of fluffy floggers that were given to me.
Is that for sensual play, or do you have some method of torturing people with it?
I'm sure I could probably wrap it around their necks. It's for sensual play,
okay.
But I don't use them very often. But they're in there.
You find a good masochist, that would definitely be torture,
This is true.
Yeah. or somebody who's really proud of being able to take hard beatings. And yeah, sorry, my. Someday you and I should try co-topping someone. I think the ideas of how to ruin their day.
Why?
Naya has a horror.
You did go talk.
Well, that's true, but that was a private scene. We did co-top Naya once.
I don't know. We ruined her on the grass at Test Fest.
Oh, that's right. That I was thinking of a different time. Never mind.
The thing where you said to her, "Who hurts more?" And she said, "I love you, Master. She does."
Fair enough. I've learned to hit harder since then.
Bites harder.
She bites harder? That's true. You bite harder. The other question, this is kind of the Harry Potter question. I have a magic wand, and I can wave my magic wand, and I can make anyone, real, fake, real, fictional, alive, dead, anywhere, any character, any person can appear, and they'll want to play with you. Enthusiastically consenting to play with you. Who would you like to have manifest, and what would you like to do with them?
Do you get long pauses of silences whilst you try to rifle through all the people you'd like to have?
Sometimes that's actually more reassuring than the ones that answer really quickly and say Benjamin Franklin or something like that. Me, that's the case I made.
Well, I mean, I could say Donald Trump and then discuss all the horrible things I do, but I don't. Can I have everyone?
I suppose it'll take a while.
I think I would probably have. Oh dear. Probably Naya.
Wow. Well, I have the wand for that. Oh, she's melting over there. Nicely done. All right. Well, Naya, you might have some plans for ROPECRAFT.
I might.
And last question, it's an easy one. What's your favorite dirty word?
Cunt.
Ah, good one. It tends to be a toss-up between cunt and fuck, which both work.
I really like the word whore. And filthy. See, I just like all the things because I am a greedy whore. This is okay.
There you go. That works. All right. Well, I'm going to thank my sponsors one more time. leallure.com for erotic hypnosis, and Twisted Monk. You can always go to rope.greatanswer.com in case you didn't remember to do Twisted Monk. And here's the thing. If you put in the code ROPECAST in your order, you will get a special gift included with your order just for ROPECAST listeners. So that's something not everybody knows because I forget to tell them. So I told you. Thank you so much for joining me here, Eternal Angel. And we will definitely look forward to seeing you on your U.S. tour.
I will see you guys in just under 60 days.